Jared Anderson versus Martin Bakole, 12 rounds in the heavyweight division. This is going to be a very good fight. I think it's a 50-50 fight. I also think it's a step-up fight for both men in different ways, not just for Jared Anderson, as many might be saying. Let's get into their records. Let's start with Jared Anderson, 17 wins, no losses, 15 wins by way of knockout. Bakole, 20 wins, 1 loss, also 15 wins by way of knockout. The last time we saw Jared Big Baby Anderson was when he fought Riyad Murray. And that was not the most exciting fight, right? And I think that's partially because Murray did not really come to fight. He kind of came to survive, to get the check, and to not get knocked out. Murray's more of a cruiserweight who kind of blew himself up to jump into the heavyweight division in that fight. But to me, he's more of a naturally cruiserweight guy. I don't think Murray is a terrible fighter by no means, but stylistically, you got to call a spade a spade. He didn't come to fight, he came to survive. And it was not the most exciting fight for Jared Big Baby Anderson. It just wasn't a good showing for him. And, you know, he landed a couple big shots on Jared Anderson, but he just ultimately didn't let his hands go. You could see he was uber defensive more than anything. Didn't really want to take no risk. Didn't really want to put himself in danger. He just fought as safe as fight as he could and stayed on the back foot with the exception of like 1 or 2 rounds. I also felt like, you know, Jared Anderson kind of fought to a lull in that fight too. You know, he kind of fought down to what his competition was doing. He didn't let his hands go enough. Because when he did, he was getting through with some combinations. When he was committing to, he wasn't cutting off the ring very well as well, too. Again, to me, it just looked like he got caught in a lull. And, you know, it kind of, you know, it wasn't eye-pleasing. You know, the only round where I didn't see Jared Anderson come forward was in that 10th round. You know, Murray came forward that round and let his hands go a little bit. Keyword a little bit, because it wasn't a whole lot, you know what I'm saying? But all in all, man, in my honest opinion, I just think Jared Anderson looked a little bored, a little disinterested in the fight. And, you know, he just did what he had to do to get the win. He didn't take a lot of damage. He didn't take a lot of shots. You know, it just wasn't the most exciting from a spectator standpoint that we want to see. Now, in Martin Bakole's most recent fight, his fight was a lot more exciting. His outing against Carlos Takam. You know, the size difference was crazy in that fight, man. I mean, you know, Bakole looked like a giant compared to Takam, and Carlos Takam isn't a small man. Pause, like pause. You know what I'm saying, right? Bakole is 6'6". Correct me if I'm wrong in that. 6'6", 6'5". I could be wrong there. But he came like close to 300 pounds, if not just under that, but very close in that ballpark. And the big man was doing damage. That's another pause. He was doing damage, right? He was doing damage. He even showed a little bit of athleticism from that size as well, too. He was slipping a few of Takam's shots, you know, pulling back and being evasive in some ways. And when he let his hands go, man, the shots looked powerful. They looked snappy, forceful. They looked, every time it landed, and you could physically see it, it was popping Takam's head back. If they connected, you just felt like, man, it's going to be one of those shots that could be the shot that closes out the show. And Carlos Takam, he can take a good punch. He's a strong individual. But Takam landed some good shots of his own, man. You know, he was going to the head. He was going to the body a little bit. And when he was in range, man, he was just letting everything fly, you know, overhead, underhead. Bakole is not a hard guy to hit, you know, and I think that's part of the problem that Carlos Takam had in that fight. Was Carlos Takam is not a great mover like that, man. He likes to see the target himself. And when you have two individuals that are going to be right in front of each other, and footwork and speed and angles is not really going to be that much of a factor, it's going to make for easy pickings. So these guys were right in front of each other, and it was just only a matter of time before some type of a shot that connected was going to derail the other guy. Right? A lot of those shots that that Bakole was landing was just sweeping left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand. And Carlos Takam would just be right there. It's easy to just go like this every single round. and land and have a high connectivity rate if the man is just right there. And the way how Bakole came into that fight, looking like the giant that he was, man, those shots round to round was just becoming more punishing and punishing and punishing. And even though Takam landed some good shots, Bakole he was too much. He was bigger, he was stronger, he was younger. And for as big as he was, man, his consistency and his work rate was really high. It was really good. And his body work was exceptional. He was sweeping shots to the body, ripping to the body. He was picking apart Carlos Takam, man. And not to mention, for a guy who's 6'6", 300 plus pounds, those shots look quick and they look snappy. And a lot of people were saying, man, Martin Bakole, man, his shots were slow. Like you can see it coming. And if that was the case, man, Carlos Takam should have known. He should have dodged them. You know what I'm saying? It's easier said than done. But Bakole, when he sits down on those punches and you're just right in front of him, man, he is going to make those shots count, and it's definitely going to make you pay. So there's no doubt that Martin Bakole is going to come into this fight as the bigger man. Now, the last time Jared Anderson fought someone who was bigger than him was when he fought Charles Martin. Anderson won the fight, but he got tested in that fight. After Anderson scored that knockdown in the third round, man, it looked like Charles Martin woke up a little bit. In the round after he got dropped, there were some shots that didn't quite connect for Charles Martin that just barely missed. But you felt like if those shots connected, I wonder what Jared's chin would be like. And in this fight, we got to see what that chin was like because that left hand was getting through. And Jared Anderson got caught with a bunch of those similar shots every single round because defensively he was pulling back every time. And once Martin started to get his timing and figure out what he was doing, it was getting through and through and through. And it was knocking Jared Anderson's head back. There were a couple rounds in that fight, man, where Charles Martin noticeably had Jared Anderson hurt. Jared Anderson was backing up and he was holding and he was trying to survive in some rounds of the fight. But to his credit, he has a really good chin because those shots, he would have taken people out, but he did a good job of not necessarily panicking, but fighting smart. And when you are hurt, either you got to get out of the way, change angles and get yourself out of danger, or you got to tie up and bide yourself some time. And you have to give Jared Anderson for that. A lot of times we say fighters don't have chins or they're not tested, and once they're tested and they overcome the test and find a way to win, we don't give them that same credit. We say they're exposed, there's holes in them, but we got to give Jared Anderson credit because we didn't know what he would be like when he fought guys with better records and step up in competition. And Charles Martin was a step up in competition for him. And I felt like he did a good job of withstanding that test, even though he was making some of those same similar mistakes that almost got himself in trouble. And you got to give him credit for that. So he was fighting a bigger man that can punch. And Martin did show that Jared Anderson can be hurt. Bakole, has a powerful right hand. But his left hand picks people apart too. So it does make things a lot more interesting because we've seen what happens when Anderson fought guys that were bigger than him, and Bakole is going to be bigger. Bakole's first loss came from when he fought Michael Hunter back in 2018. Michael Hunter is a heavyweight who can box, good footwork, and he's got good pop on him. And I felt like he had a good game plan against Bakole, using his jab, keeping his feet moving, using his speed, punching in combinations to his advantage. Bakole was headhunting a lot in that fight, man. He was having success when he was going to the body. I think that's one part of his style that has gotten better, is he's become a lot better going to the body, and his accuracy is much better than previous fights before. There's been improvements there from what I can see from my eyes. But against Michael Hunter, man, I think he was just trying to take Hunter's head off every single round rather than finding ways to slow him up and make him a bit of that sitting target, because both men were getting tired past a certain point. I thought Hunter was countering very well from in close. Every time Bakole came in and missed a shot, Hunter had something to return fire, but both men were feeling the pace. I think both men were kind of in deep distress in some ways, especially Michael Hunter, because when you're having this big target moving at you every single round, man, you got to make sure you're not getting hit by those shots, but you also got to make sure that you are returning something back to keep him honest. So it can be physically tiring and mentally tiring as well, too. And the way how Bakole was swinging with those shots, any of those shots could have been the shot to turn Michael Hunter's lights out, because those shots, when it did connect on Michael Hunter, you better believe he felt it. You better believe, he used his footwork to get out of the way. But at the same time, Bakole was also tiring himself out. And at that time, he looked in much better physical shape in that fight than he did in his most recent fight against Carlos Taco. But after the 7th round, he was slowing down a little bit more, and that defense was starting to be less and less and less more responsible in that department. And, Bakole hurt his shoulder in the 7th round, and he wasn't really throwing that right side as much, and he wasn't really defending himself as well. But regardless of the fact, the momentum was swinging in Michael Hunter's favor. And based on those cards, he would have needed a knockout to beat Michael Hunter at that point, But again, as I said, I think Bakole has improved a lot since then. He goes to the body a lot better. He sets up his shots a lot better. And, he beat up on Tony Yoka as well, too, a couple of years back, pretty good, and almost stopped him in that first round. So this is going to be a very good fight, man. I think it's going to be an exciting fight. So who wins? Before I give my pick on this fight, I have something real quick to share. I'm always looking to bring more light, more value, more opportunities for the community. I've been working on a few different things in recent weeks to not just grow the channel, but as I said, to continue to provide as much value as I can to each of you in our community. With that being said, I got some exciting news to share. I'm happy to announce my partnership with BetStamp and Sign Up Expert. It's a great opportunity for you to join some of the best sports books to get the best odds and new user offer. All you have to do is head over to my dedicated page at signupexpert.com/thebreakdown to explore a selection of sports books tailored to your region, each with its own unique offerings. So if you want to place a bet this weekend and on this fight and beyond, check out the link to find the best options for you in your region. Every sign up does support the channel, and it helps the channel grow and to expand and to create more opportunities, not just for me, but for our community. I'm always looking out for you guys as best as I can. You can easily find the link in the description below this videos moving forward. So get down there and check it out and find the best option for you. Now, let's get back to the video. Now, there are a lot of mixed reviews in this fight, man, for all good reasons. I'm going to assume Bakole is going to come into this one maybe 280 plus. From the videos I've seen of him, man, he looked about that. So he's going to be much bigger than Jared Anderson. I think Bakole, personally, I think he's going to be dangerous in that first 6 to 7 rounds. He's going to come forward. He's going to bring the pressure and try and make him engage and use his size, strength, and power to his advantage. Jared Anderson hasn't been down before, but he can be touched up. And he can take a shot, but he's also not going to be a sitting duck, man. Jared Anderson, he's got good footwork. He can move. He moves better than Michael Hunter to me. He puts together better combinations than Michael Hunter to me, and he's a bigger puncher than Michael Hunter to me. So the speed and the movement goes to Jared Anderson. And I think that could give Martin Bakole some problems. If you're sitting in front of Martin Bakole, you're not going to beat him. He's too big, too strong, man. But if you can move, it makes things a little bit more interesting. Some of that same game plan that worked for Michael Hunter, I'm sure Jared Anderson and his team are going to implement that as well, too. And he's just a naturally mover like that in the heavyweight division. If Anderson can weather the storm within the first 6 rounds, I think he can come on strong in the second half of the fight and control the rest of the fight. Even though I said Jared Anderson, both men aren't hard to find, but I like Jared Anderson defensively in this fight. Both men have got to establish the jab and be strategic in their shots. Anderson needs to stay disciplined. Bakole will make him pay if he tries to come in, to engage, and overcommit. I wouldn't be surprised if we see either man getting knocked down and hitting the canvas in this fight at least once. A win for Jared Anderson or an upset from Martin Bakole, those outcomes shouldn't be surprising to anybody. Both outcomes are possible, but I think we're going to see an exciting fight and a fight that could go the distance or someone ending up on the canvas. But I like Jared Anderson to win this fight by decision, man. I think it's going to be a close fight. I think Jared Anderson's going to have a few shaky moments in this fight, but I think his movement and speed and jab are going to be his strength in this fight, and I think will help him in the fight. He's going to have to weather some storms in this fight, especially the early part. I think Bakole is going to gas out a little bit, trying to slow down Jared Anderson. But if Bakole starts imposing his will and hitting the target within that first 6 rounds, I don't think it's going to be too good for Jared Anderson, man. But Jared Anderson is also no Carlos Takam. Carlos Takam was a little bit older, a little more stagnant and stationary. Anderson, who is more athletic, is going to use that to his advantage. But this is a dangerous fight, man. If Bakole is going to win, I think he needs to stop Jared Anderson and at least, get 2 knockdowns. Because I don't think he's going to get a decision victory, man. I think there's a lot riding on Jared Anderson. This is a step-up fight for both men, as I said, man. I would not be surprised at the outcome, however it plays out. So those are my thoughts. I would love to hear from you. How do you think this one goes? Who do you have winning this one? Let me know in the comment section below. I don't always get to do all the suggested videos you guys suggest in the comment section below, but if you become a member, those suggested videos rise to the top, and I will do my best to get those done for you that week. Or if you'd like to become a member just to show love and to support the channel, man, that would be greatly appreciated as well. Shout out to all the members holding down the membership section, man. I appreciate each of you. Shout out to everybody that continues to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, man. I appreciate each of you. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video this long, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.